If you're looking for a podcast that packs in sound property advice, as well as offering you an insight into making the world of property effective and ultimately work for you, you're in the right place. Hosted by Arsh Ellahi, the original property rebel. He's written an Amazon bestseller, created the Property Investor app, the UK's first, and is an experienced property mentor. More importantly, he talks the talk and walks the walk.
Hi and welcome to the first edition of The Property Rebel with your host Arsh Ellahi. I want to welcome you to my podcast, and it's been a long time coming. I've been procrastinating with this, and what's really pushed me on to do this is the scenario that we find ourselves in. So the first time that I'm recording this, we see ourselves in second week of lockdown in the unfortunate circumstances of the coronavirus. And I thought, well, what better way can I reach out to some of the people that have been following me for a while or been listening to me for a while than a podcast? And what better name to call it than The Property Rebel? So first edition, I want to just give you a bit of an insight as to who is Arsh Ellahi, and more importantly, what's my experience and why I think I have the credentials to launch such a podcast. So first and foremost, at the time of launching this, I'm 39 years old. And at the time of launching this podcast, I've got approximately 1,100 tenants, and it's probably one of the scariest times to be involved in property. And the reason why I say that is because there's lots going on where everyone's been lots of people have been laid off from work. Not many people know what's happening with their jobs. We've got tenants that saying that they can't pay, some tenants that say they won't pay. And one of the things with this podcast is going to be that it's going to be completely raw. It's going to be completely real. If there's something that is not right, I'll tell you about it. If there's something that I've done wrong and I've made mistakes from, I'll tell you about it, and hopefully you'll learn from the mistakes that I've made. Just so that you know, when I'm recording these sessions, they are a one take, which means that we may get some ims, ums and ahs, but we will carry on with the recording. If I make a mistake, we'll carry on. So first of all, who is Arsh Ellahi? I am based in Wolverhampton. I've got quite a significant property portfolio, as I said, and I've been involved in property for full time approximately 19 years. Which is a decent amount of time. And in that time, I've seen the crash of 2008. I'm about to see the crash of 2020. And hopefully I'm still here to tell the tale. So where did it all begin? So first and foremost, I should say as well that I'm an author of a book called Boom, Bust and Back Again. And one of the things that I'm probably most proud of is that I'm the founder of the UK's first property investment marketplace platform called Property Investor. You can find it on UK and worldwide release on every single app store. So whether that be iOS or Android, all you have to do is go to the App Store and type in Property Investor, and you'll be able to download the app. And what the app is all about is, as a property investor, before I was searching websites such as Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market, trying to find that property investment deal. And I would have to look through hundreds of listings. And I thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I decided to create one. I created a platform. I created what we consider a marketplace for property investors to come along to, so they can see ready-made deals in the palm of their hand. All the deals are fully packaged, sourced, packaged, and put in a way where a property investor can literally look at it and say, I understand it, I completely get it. And as a result, they can press reserve, they can start talking to us through the app with a view of seeing if this property is the right deal for them. So that will give you a bit of hopefully an insight as to what I'm all about. If I see a problem or if I see a niche in the market, I like to think that I try and find a solution for it. And this has happened through all my property journey. As I said, the book, Boom, Bust and Back Again, is all about, and what I've called it is a property investor's survival guide, because I've had to survive so many ways or through so many issues to get to where I am today. So where did it all begin? I've been a property investor since the age of 4 years old, which you'd think is kind of crazy, but it's actually true. So where it all started was my father, his first love was being a precision engineer. So he had contracts with people like Caterpillar, the Lex Group, and he used to manufacture parts for things like earth movers, forklifts, etc. And from the proceeds and the profits of his engineering company, he started to invest that in property. So he bought a couple of houses. He bought his main residential house, and he learnt from that. Now, I'm one of 6, so I've got 5 other siblings. So we're a decent sized family. From the moment I can remember, going back to my childhood, I only ever knew living on the ground floor of a property. We used to live in a 2-story house, but I remember only living on the ground floor, because when my father bought his first property, he was very risk averse and he was always very worried about not being able to afford the mortgage. So what he started to do was he decided that we were going to live on the ground floor. So on the ground floor, there was a living room, another reception room, then we had another living room. So it's quite a large property. And then we had a kitchen and bathroom. And in there, the 2 front rooms were literally there for my brothers and sisters and my parents to live in. And then we had the lounge where we all used to, watch a bit of TV and eat dinner. And then we had the kitchen and the bathroom. With all the other bedrooms upstairs, and there were 4 bedrooms upstairs, my father actually started to rent those out. And we didn't know what it is now. Now we would call this a HMO, a house of multiple occupation. Back then, it was called the Guide to Survival. So the people were paying us, rent, and as a result, that income was allowing my father to afford the mortgage. Now you could say that that's quite revolutionary, because back then, there was no HMO. There was no HMO regulation. There was no planning conditions attached to it. There's no Article 4. So all he did was just working off basic business economics. The outgoing is this: I need to make sure that I've got sufficient amount of income to service the outgoings. And it was really as simple as that. My father used to still have the factory. He kept the engineering factory pretty much up to near enough the best part 2005, if memory serves me correctly. So the engineering company was there for a long time thereafter, and I spent a lot of my childhood there. And I'll talk to you about my childhood in this podcast, because the things that I learned in my childhood have made me the person that I am today, whether that be right or wrong. So I've always lived in a HMO, shall we say, from a very young age. And I've learnt from the very young age the ethic of hard work. And the reason why I say that is because where we started out, every weekend I was at my father's engineering factory, helping him clean up, helping him put away tools, because he was a one-man band and he just wanted some support, and he wanted his family to help him, so it became a family affair. As well as that, so every weekend I was there, every school holiday I was there. So whilst all my friends were out playing football and going to holiday clubs, I was going to the factory from pretty much 7 a.m. in the morning to 5 p.m. in the evening. And whilst my friends were playing football in the evening, believe it or not, I was so tired, I didn't have time I didn't want to go and play football. So this gives you a bit of a background as to who I am and what I'm all about. So Slowly but surely, so we had the first family house, we had the engineering company producing some income, and when I say we, my father started buying some properties, and he would do it slowly and surely. So he bought his first property after the family house, and again, he did exactly the same. Instead of us now living on the ground floor, what we did is that we rented out every room in that property. So we're going back to like early 1980s. We were renting rooms out. And when I used to come home from school, believe it or not, I used to work with my father in the property business. So I'd go around with him collecting rent. I'd help him with I wouldn't help him with maintenance. I'd literally be there watching him do some maintenance and watching him manage the builders, because he was very hands-on in his property business. And slowly but surely that business started to grow. So all the income and the profit from the engineering company started to get pushed into property, and one property after another. And it eventually turned into a portfolio of around 20 properties. But it wasn't just 20 properties. It was pretty much the best part of around 15 HMOs, a couple of commercials and a couple of single lets. So when I left university, I had a very good standing of understanding what property was and what it does what we needed to generate income. And I literally, you could say that I had a very good start in property. So that gives you a bit of background. Now, one thing that I want to say to you is, what are you going to learn from listening to me? There's going to be a lot of ramble, admittedly, because it is one cut takes of this podcast. So we're going to learn a lot about business. We're going to learn a lot about doing, not talking, because there's lots of people in this world who will talk about stuff but don't get around to doing it. I'm a doer. That's why I said with this podcast, I knew I had to get it out. I'd been procrastinating for a while. I thought, you know what, whilst I'm in lockdown, what better way can I do than to get my message out? And this is where we are today. It's called the Property Rebel because I've done lots of things in property where other people would have said that that was not possible, or you wouldn't have been able to achieve that. Whereas I said, okay, you may not be able to achieve that, but I'm sure I can. So with my can-do attitude, I'm hoping that you take away a lot of lessons from this. And you too will understand that by actually doing and not talking about it, how much more you will achieve. So just to give you a little bit more of a background about me. So I'm a deal sourcer. I trade quite a lot of properties. I'm the owner of the app called Property Investor, which I've previously talked about. And a lot of business and a lot of the businesses that I've started all came from an existing issue. And I want to take you back just to a childhood, one of my first businesses that I started at the age of 16. And probably one that I'm probably most proud of because, again, I didn't have the backing of finance, funding, or more importantly, my parents. And this is quite a personal story. And hopefully this will give you a bit of a background as to where I am and more importantly, how I've managed to develop thick skin, which I've taken through into my whole business life. So at the age of 16, I came out of school, having done my first 5 years in secondary school. I came out of school with 0 GCSEs. And I remember that day because that was a real turning point for me. Came back, I thought I did quite well in my exams. And I went to pick up my results and I realized that I didn't actually pass a single one. So got lots of D's, got lots of E's. I don't know how I managed to get, I think I got some F's. I've still got the results sheet somewhere. And I said to myself that my parents didn't want to put me through further education. I begged and pleaded for another chance because I knew what was going to happen to me. I was going to end up in the engineering company for the rest of my life. And that's one thing that I didn't want to do. So I begged and pleaded. I did a retake year, and that was probably one of the best years of my life. And the reason why I say that is because that's where I learned about business. That's where I learned about setting up a business, and that's where I actually met some of my lifelong friends, shall I say. So I moved school because I felt like the first school that I was at wasn't the best environment for me. And then second of all, when I went there, it was a clean slate, and as a result, I met some new people, I met new teachers, and as a result, the people that I met, I actually went into business with. So one of my friends, he came to me, he says, because I was a year older than them, I actually could drive. So my father, as part of the engineering company, he needed a delivery guy, shall we say. So once some of the parts are finished, I would then take it to the factory. So in my spare time, in my where other kids were probably spending that time doing their assignments, I would be out delivering parts during the day. So Monday to Friday, if I had a free period in sixth form, I'd be out delivering parts. So that's part of the work ethic. So because I had a car, one of my friends said to me, he goes, Arsh, my uncle actually sells watches. I thought, okay. He goes, how about we set up a business where we go to the market and we sell these watches? And I said, okay, that's interesting. And he goes, but can you ask your dad for some money so that we can use it as stock? And I said, there's no way that my dad is going to allow me to do that. My father was very strict and he was very tight with his money. So I said to him, would you allow me to speak to your uncle? And he goes, what do you want to do that for? I said, because if he allows me to do something where we take the watches, he takes a stock for them from the outset. So he counts how many watches we take them away, we sell them, and then we return to him at the end of the day and we pay him for whatever we've sold. And the stuff that we haven't sold, we hand him back to him in perfect condition. If there's any breakages, we'll pay for them. Now, back then, I didn't know what this was called, but now I know it is called sale or return. So that was my first business. So he goes, my uncle will never go for that. I said, well, let's have a quick chat with him. So what I did, 16 years old, 17 years old, I went and sat with his uncle. He made me a cup of tea, and he was importing a lot of watches and a lot of, goods from China. And I thought that was fantastic. And I said to him, I'll tell you what. He goes, I'm selling these watches to other people for like £1.75. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you £2 a watch on the basis that you pretty much give us what is almost like credit, but not credit because I'm paying you at the end of the day. You count out 100 watches to start with. At the end of the day, if I come back to you with 10 watches, I'll pay you for the 90 and you have your 10 back. You've made a little bit more money off me on the basis that you're giving them to me, but via trust through your nephew. And that was the link, the nephew, which was my best friend. And it worked. And he said, I'll tell you what, we'll start with one day. So I went, I loaded my car up. I bought a pasting table, a wooden pasting table from B&Q. And I went there and I bought a plastic sheet and I went to a local market with my friend. Guess what? We sold out all 100 watches. We went there at 5 o'clock in the morning. I shouted and I talked and I pitched the whole day. And I came back having sold 100 watches and I was over the moon. We actually sold the 100 watches by near enough 2 p.m. The market didn't actually finish till 4 p.m. And I kept saying, you know what? If I can sell 100 watches by this, I should be able to sell 150 watches by 4 p.m. Went back to my friend's uncle and said, okay, here you go, £2 a watch, sold 100 watches, there's £200. The watches, we actually sold them £5 each. So we actually came back with £500. We gave his uncle £200. We were left with £300. Now we had to take some costs out for pitch fees for the market, plus petrol costs, plus a bit of food. So we were still left with quite a lot of money. And remember, 17 years old, even if we were left with £100 each net after costs, we did extremely well. Where else can you go at 17 years old and generate £100 each? So you can see that I'm very creative in my way of thinking, and I've carried this through my business life. Now, what I'd like to do is over the next few episodes, is give you journeys of my life, and more importantly, the lessons that we've learned, and also the lessons of the property and the deals that we've done. So if you think or you like the thought of that, please keep watching. Please subscribe to the podcast. As well as that, you can find me on social media. So you can find me on Facebook, you can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Instagram, all under Arsh Ellahi. As well as that, you can find me on YouTube under Arsh Ellahi, where I've got multiple hundreds of videos. And if you subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell, every time I send out a new video, you'll get a notification of that. Hopefully you've enjoyed the first session. It'll give you a bit of an indication as to who I am and what I'm all about. But more importantly, I hope that you listen to the rest of the sessions, and I'll speak to you all soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
The large majority of people make a positive change if they take immediate action. So act now. Download the Property Investor app and join Arsh on his social media channels to excel your property journey.